I believe Aang can save the world.
Howdy nerds of everywhere, it's me, Shrugpot, and today, welcome to the 4th video of Avatar month. Actually, no, it's the 5th one. Forget I said that. So, we finished Avatar, The Last Airbender, and, just like any popular series, there's bound to be sequels. We didn't get the sequel for a while. We didn't get it for about 5 years. So, you know, everybody was all like, man, Avatar was so good. Then they gave us the sequel series, Legend of Korra, which is about the next Avatar after Aang. And I'm gonna be talking about it. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So, basically, Legend of Korra is, in a way, not like Avatar. It's not set up the same way as Avatar. But here's how the story is set up. So it starts out with us being introduced to Korra as a young child, as the White Lotus is going to find the next Avatar. Well, we see that she has the ability to already do water, earth, and fire, but she just has to master in that. So, at the beginning, it's already a different setup entirely, because from the time that she was able to control her powers, or being able to form her powers, she was being put in training, so she's had a lot more practice than Aang has. So, Korra is young when she gets put into training, and so it takes about 13 years for her to be able to master her powers. She's a young water tribe girl, so water becomes easy to her, and she trains under Katara for water bending, which is really freaking cool, if you ask me. But even though she has the ability to control water, earth, and fire already, she can't control air. So Katara calls on her son, which is Aang's son, which is really cool. They got married and had a kid and everything. Katara and Aang. Go team. Aang's son, Tenzin, comes to take Korra under her wing and train her in the art of airbending. Whoosh. But the problem is that Tenzin lives in Republic City, and because of his family, he can't stay in the South Pole. So when he goes back to a place called Republic City, Korra follows him along. So Korra, who has been influenced by Katara, escapes the South Pole and goes to Republic City. Now, Republic City is a place that Aang created for benders and non-benders to be able to live together, because there are a lot of non-benders in this world of bending, and so there needs to be some peace and balance, and Aang was perfect for that. But everything is set up differently. There's more technology, it's more modern. The way that the series has progressed is that there are different systems of government now, which is absolutely fantastic. So when Korra arrives, she knows that there's a group called the Equalists that want to get rid of the benders, because benders are called evil. Being led by that group is Amon, and he has been able to take people's bending away. So the rest of the series focuses on Korra fighting the Equalists and Amon while doing other things in between. And Amon is hecka scary. Like, he's terrifying. So she tries to grow a name of the Avatar in the city, and then she tries to show people that she is just as capable as keeping peace as Aang was, and stuff ensues, and it's pretty entertaining. The story is pretty well centered, which something that the first series didn't have is keeping at the same plot throughout the entire series. This season just focuses on Amon and the Equalists. When I do my other reviews, they are completely different stories, and so the entire series of Avatar was focused on defeating the Fire Nation. This one season alone had different pacing and a different setup than the entire series of Avatar had at all. Because this season was focused in, like, 4 days. Like, that's the time span. The first season for Avatar took place over, like, 3 months. That's ridiculous. And so, it's different in pacing and in the way that they show the plot. which isn't bad by any means, but it's just different from transferring over to The Last Airbender to Korra, because when I was focusing on reviewing this, I didn't really realize that it had this kind of pacing, and it was odd for me to have to adapt to this. Now, the characters in the series are introduced differently than Avatar, because by the end of the first season, Team Avatar is already formed entirely. It's pretty weird. So first off, we have the Avatar, who is Korra. She's kind of cocky, which is an entirely different parallel from Aang, because she's really strong and confident at the beginning, unlike Aang, who was very timid and unsure about everything. For her being able to master 3 elements already, she believes that she can conquer the world just by using force. Now, this gets her into a bit of trouble because she would rather start a fight than want to talk, unlike Aang. And so that's a different parallel from this series than The Last Airbender. So her inner conflict this season is that Korra doesn't know exactly what to do because people think that the Equalists are trying to bring peace, but since the Avatar is there, someone who has the ability to bend versus an entire group of people who hate bending, now that's something that she doesn't have any idea how to deal with. Korra develops this season into a more fitting Avatar because she has to deal with the frustration of not being able to airbend, but Aang was always able to pick up on elements very easily, but Korra can't do that very well, and so she becomes very frustrated, and she becomes upset that she can't do stuff that Aang could, and she doesn't understand why. She finally realizes by the end of the series that strength isn't everything, and has to rely on people to help her just as much as people have to rely on her. Now, next up we have 2 members of Team Avatar, Mako, who's a firebender, and Bolin, who's an earthbender. Korra meets Mako and Bolin when she sneaks in to watch the pro bending circuit. Mako starts out as a serious type and kind of seems like he doesn't care, but in the end he actually cares a lot for Bolin and Korra. Bolin, on the other hand, is the comic relief character, and he just seems like he's some big moron, but he actually shows that he's quite strong and cares a lot for other people as well. So for Mako, he saw Korra as a problem even after he figured out that she was the Avatar, especially since Korra was Bolin's love interest at the beginning of the series, and so he tried to date Korra, and Mako kind of got really upset because Korra was like, no sir. So after a while, the team becomes closer and they bond more as a team, but Mako also grows emotional attachment towards people throughout the season. Now, this is a huge downside to the season right here. Now, due to the writers wanting to develop relationships, they kind of made it to where that everybody would get together and then they would get apart. It became a bother to see how these relationships would pan out because Korra did everything that Avatar did in one season. Mako and Korra, I feel like, are the main cause of this, because by the end of the season, they're the reason why it's just kind of awkward. But I'll talk about this more a little bit later. So a little bit more on Bolin. He's the one who wanted Korra on the team, and so Bolin, being the goofy comic relief character, is the guy who fell in love with Korra, but then it becomes awkward because Bolin watches Mako kiss Korra. This messes up their chemistry as a team and messes up everything that there was before that, and then they become closer because of it, but none of that needed to happen. More examples of this awkward writing. Now, the final 3 characters are ones I'm going to just explain just very briefly, because there weren't that many supporting characters, and these 3 were around a lot, but they weren't too huge to the plot this season. So then we have a girl named Asami, who brings more awkward writing because Mako fell in love with her, with Asami, and then Asami supported the Fire Ferrets, which is the name of the pro bending team, and then what happened is that Asami and Mako started dating, then they broke up, and then it became more awkward, and more awkward writing, And it's ridiculous. So, next is Tenzin, who is Aang and Katara's son. His goal throughout this season is to be a fitting father for his kids, but at the same time he has to teach Korra airbending. So he has to balance these things at the same time, and it's weird. It's focusing on the Avatar and also focusing on being a dad, and that's quite a contrast, and I really like Tenzin's moral dilemma in this season. Now, the third and final character is someone who I didn't think would be here. Lin Beifong, the daughter of freaking Toph Beifong, the best character in Avatar. Someone got to third base with Toph. Can we just stop and realize this? Toph motherfreaking Beifong! See, Lin is a good balance between Toph, but also her own self, because Toph was really funny and also really strong, but Lin just isn't Toph to me. And, I mean, her earthbending and metal bending is great and all, but she had me laughing a lot, but just, she's not Toph Beifong, I guess. Now, the villain is pretty interesting, and for this review, I'm gonna be going into slightly spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then skip to this time right here in the video. So, the villain, Amon, is a bloodbender, and he's able to bloodbend at any time of the day. So, take the suspense that you have of Katara's episode, The Puppet Master, from the last season of Avatar, but put that into a whole season, because he adds suspense and horror, because he has that V for Vendetta mask, basically, and it's pretty crazy for him to be able to bloodbend at any time and take people's bending away. I mean, he even takes Korra's bending away at one time, which is pretty insane. But it also lets her be able to airbend, which that scene's also pretty cool, by the way. You should watch it. And then at the end of the season, she's able to give bending and take it and go to the Avatar state, which is great. Just great. So this season, with no surprise, is animated by a different animation studio than Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I really like it. The animation studio is called Studio Mir. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's M-I-R, whatever. But here's the thing. There are only 13 episodes this season. And so it's pretty odd to see that there's only one animation studio the entire season. Now, to be expected, the action scenes are panned out way differently in this series than in Avatar. The scenes between the original and Korra is that they all are set up the same way, but there's more fluency in motion for Korra, seeing that there's more momentum for the person fighting. Avatar, it looked fantastic, don't get me wrong, but Korra's animation is honestly some of the best animation I've ever seen for a television show. The animation of this series has already blown me away the first season, because it's absolutely fantastic, and I think that if the rest of the series is going the way that it is, it will be amazing in the animation department. Now, something weird that I just had this small little nitpick, and that's the landscapes. Every time I see a landscape, it looks nice, but when somebody's fighting on it, it looks like the landscapes are just sliding back and forth. There is no this like still image, but it kind of seems like it's just like sliding. I don't know. I think that may just be a me thing. But when I see an earthbender interacting with the ground, it just looks kind of weird to me. I think that's just a me thing. I don't know. The Legend of Korra is, in and of itself, an amazing service to the fans and to television in general. Nickelodeon, at the time that this started airing, was struggling to keep good shows on, and it just went downhill from where Legend of Korra went on, because they treated Korra poorly throughout these multiple seasons that it got, because it has 4 seasons, and it was treated like garbage. And here's the thing, this was one of the last good shows on Nickelodeon, and I'm kind of sad that it ended like this. But I could discuss more on Nickelodeon's bad taste in shows and multiple bad choices in general, but that's for another day. Legend of Korra was a breath of fresh air for everyone. The action and awesomeness that just was packed into the 3 seasons of Avatar moved on into an entirely new cast, and it was absolutely fantastic. The plot was interesting, and the pacing was amazing, just like Avatar was. And the characters developed in one season that some shows would be jealous of, because it's really good. And you may be looking at me and being like, why are you comparing this to Avatar? Avatar was the beginning of something. This is a spin-off. If you're going to compare to something, if they're in the same series, you can't just not compare, because if these were 2 separate properties of itself, if Legend of Korra had no correlation whatsoever to Avatar: The Last Airbender, I wouldn't be comparing it to something. But I need something to be compared to, because Avatar: The Last Airbender was such a fantastic show. The problem that I had with this season was just because of some of the awkward writing, and I didn't find it as enjoyable as somebody else would. To me, the writing was such a huge downside that sometimes I felt like that there was like a 12-year-old Degrassi fan writing this stuff. Wait, is Degrassi still popular? I still believe that the comedy and the mythology of Avatar is still amazing, but I didn't find this as great as the first season of Avatar. And it's gonna start off slow because it's been quite a few years since these guys have written a very cohesive story, and it's gonna start off slow. It's gonna be kind of difficult, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. So with that in mind, I'm going to give The Legend of Korra Season 1 an 8.7 out of 10. So, if you are interested in buying this series, I honestly suggest going and picking this sucker up, because this is how I started watching this. It comes in this nice little thing, and it has all of the discs for book 1. They're not split up into multiple different boxes, as freaking dumb... That's my dog. Avatar was. That box is nice, but it can get dumb sometimes. But if you're like, dogs, stop. But if you're like me, you can get this. You also can get it on Blu-ray. But if you're one of those people that want to like it separately and get it by season, then, you know, you can always go pick it up on Blu-ray singularly. Dogs, stop! So thank you guys for watching. This is my puppers, Charlie. I love him. And he follows me on Twitter, actually. No, he doesn't. He can't do that. But you can follow me on Twitter. That was a good slide into that part. Yeah, follow me on Twitter, maybe subscribe, maybe drop me a comment, I don't know. Whatever you want to do. Avatar month is not over yet, so I got another 4 more videos, so it's gonna be fun. Alrighty, I'll see you in the next video.